How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading when the price is going up or down. Crypto.com sent 50k by mistakes to a user and now is getting 76k in return. Georgia resident James McDuncans Jr. got 50,000 sent to him by Crypto.com a few years after signing up. According to a filing with the Southern District Court in Florida, he transferred the money to his external bank account the same day it was transferred to him. Crypto.com asked numerous times for him to return the money, and he just ignored them. So they went to legal counsel, and now he has to pay the $50,000 as well as the plaintiff's legal costs. So sometimes it's better just to give stuff back. Multichain missing 120 million of cryptocurrencies and its CEO. So Multichain's Shutdown, its software is malfunctioning and the CEO is missing. Moribund blockchain bridge, Multichain suffered the additional indignity of 120 million hack and announced that it would not resume operations. So we're having parts of Multichain shut down since no one can do anything with it. The team behind the bridge announced late in May that it was unable to contact its CEO and co-founder, who goes by the single name Zhaojun. Multichain said it was experiencing unusual activity on Thursday evening and added that the assets had been moved to an unknown address abnormally. So the CEO is supposedly the only one with any of the keys to Multichain, so it could be him since no one knows where he is. He could be taking money for hiding. No one knows though. Coinbase was aware of the securities laws violations the SEC claims in a letter. So the SEC says since Coinbase became a public company, they repeatedly informed their shareholders that the risk of the crypto assets traded on their platform could be deemed securities and therefore that its conduct could violate the federal securities laws, reads the regulator's response. As per the SEC, Coinbase is a multi-billion-dollar entity advised by sophisticated legal counsel that has deliberately been ignoring more than 75 years of controlling law under Howey, in an attempt to construct its own test for what constitutes an investment contract. So they're saying that they were told what a security was. They were told to pretty much get their things in check. They pretty much ignored them and wanted to try and skirt the laws. That's pretty much the SEC's argument. That means that the SEC does not and in fact cannot deny the company's public listing merely because it thinks investing in the company is a bad idea. That's what they're kind of saying in response to people asking, well, if everything they're doing is bad, why did you let them become a publicly traded company? Ethereum core dev explains why Danksharding is a big deal. So this is a pretty good upgrade. Danksharding is going to completely change Ethereum and further better, says core developer Mario Havel. Havel told Decrypt that the next big Ethereum upgrade, dubbed Denkun, however you say that, is nearing the final stages of planning. The upgrade will do many things, but one of the major changes is the introduction of the Danksharding feature. This will allow the network to scale and handle up to 100,000 transactions per second, or TPS. EIP 4844 sets the foundation for data sharding through the introduction of a new transaction type, oddly named Data Blob. The Data Blob will also introduce what's called a KZG commitment, which will allow blobs to point to certain information. That information won't be accessible forever though. This will make it easier for rollups to access the data it needs and will make faster and cheaper transactions for the Ethereum mainnet. So this will allow you to swap coins and things cheaper and transfer out different chains cheaper. It's not going to stay around too long, so you'll probably have pointers throughout different layers and different kind of roll-ups. So you'll probably have a pointer that would go from pointing from one thing to another thing if that data is still being used. Not sure, they don't really go into how the data will be transferred if it is still needed. But onto the charts. Our total is still getting a little bit of indecision here. Not sure what we want to do right now. We have pretty much the same candle on both sides, so it's a doji candle. Our momentum is coming down, stochastic is coming down, RSI is starting to curl away. Money flow is riding under that neutral, so it still has bearish momentum, but not strong bearish momentum. Our VWAP was coming up. It looks like it could start to come out if it starts to flatten out and curl over here. So just keep an eye on it because it's not really going up too strongly, as we're not really getting a big push upwards. Over for Bitcoin dominance, we're getting a little bit of a push down. RSI is starting to curl slightly. Momentum starting to curl. Stochastic starting to curl. VWAP is starting to curl and close to that neutral. So watch if that VWAP breaks through that neutral and becomes bearish. If that does happen, then we could see our momentum and other indicators start to fall as well. Over on Bitcoin futures, we have a bit of an indecision candle that formed a little bit of a gap, so we could see some sort of an upswing in the next couple days. We'll have to kind of see. Stochastic is pushing down, RSI is pushing down, momentum's coming down, VWAP and money flow are still coming down pretty aggressively. So overall, if we don't get some green strong candles, we could see some further red candles and head back down to our value area high for our volume profile here. For Bitcoin, we are currently slightly rejecting that resistance area. We tried to come up yesterday, didn't quite make it through, and we're slightly starting to pull away now. Our RSI is starting to pull down. Stochastic wants to make a bullish cross, so we'll have to see if that can get through and go through the neutral and actually give our RSI some strength. Otherwise, our RSI is likely to start to fall. Our momentum is coming down and our money flow is kind of flattening out here around this 5 zone. So if we aren't able to push through, we could see it start to cool off. Our VWAP looks like it wanted to go up, but it's not really going up too strongly, especially with this red candle, so watch out for it to start to curl. Over on the 4-hour, our money flow is trying to get a little bit of a ramp up here. Stochastic's trying to ramp up. Our RSI is trying to get a slight push up. Momentum is coming down. Our VWAP is slightly in the bearish territory. It wants to come back up for a retest, so we'll have to see if it can break through. But currently it looks like it could start to curl back away, so it may make another bottom. Over on the 2-hour, Stochastic is trying to get push up. RSI is trying to push up. Our VWAP is trying to go bullish. It's not currently too strong, so just watch out if it kind of flops over like it did back here, as that could lead to another little bit of dip like that did. Our momentum wants to come up, but if that VWAP struggles to maintain bullish momentum, that VWAP could see a red dot that could bring it back down. So just keep an eye on these lower time frames. Over on the 1-hour, RSI is trying to ramp up. Our Stochastic is trying to ramp up. VWAP is pushing up pretty decently. Our money flow did get a new low, but is trying to head back up to the bullish zone. We'll have to see if it can break through this kind of 7-8 area. If it gets a bit of a curl here, we could see a bit of a rejection from this on the money flow, and we could see further downside. Our momentum is possibly getting a bit of a round here as our VWAP starting to round off, so just watch out if the VWAP starts to get exhausted. Over on graph for the daily, we're pretty indecisive here as well. Pretty much across the board. Stochastic is starting to get a little bit of a fall. We have a little bit of a bearish divergence forming for quite a while here. Our momentum is starting to fall. Money flow is trying to go bullish though, so keep an eye on if that can break through and manage to flip bullish. That would be a positive sign for us. Our VWAP is struggling to go anywhere. It is in the bearish territory, but it's just riding around this 4 zone, so we'll have to see if it can curl up and get some momentum to the upside. Over on the 4-hour, we have a possible descending triangle here that could push us lower, so just keep an eye out for that. Stochastic is heading down, RSI is heading down, our money flow is starting to push down, our VWAP is in the bearish territory, but it's kind of flattening out and hanging up around this 5-5 zone where it's hung up a couple times and made a bounce from. Our momentum's starting to come down with a red dot, so just keep an eye on if this VWAP keeps going bearish, because if it does, we could see this momentum pull down even further. Over on the 2-hour, Stochastic's trying to get a bit of a round up. RSI is trying to round up. Our VWAP is pushing up, so that is good for us. However, if we get rejected here, kind of a sticking point if you see these few touches. If we get rejected here, then we could see another swing down. Our momentum wants to get a push up, but that's going to depend on if this VWAP can flip bullish or not. Over on the 1-hour, our RSI is getting a little bit of a cool down as we're falling here. Our stochastic's trying to get a push up, but it's not quite in the bullish momentum yet. We'll have to see if it can carry through and go through that neutral and hold. Our VWAP is trying to get a bit of ramp up, so that is good for our momentum wave as we have that green dot and a bit of a curl, so that may try to push us forward. Our money flow is getting a little bit of bounce off the neutral, but it's starting to flop back over, so if it touches this neutral again, we may see it go back into the bearish territory. If we do, we could set up further downside, so just keep an eye out for that. Over on Anchor for the daily, we are getting a little bit of a bounce on this value area low again. We have a manipulation X that could bring us down. Stochastic is still falling. Our RSI is still falling. Momentum wave is coming down. Money flow is starting to push down. It might break into the bearish territory. If that does happen, just keep an eye on it. Our VWAP is in the bearish territory and heading down. We have a new low here, so if it doesn't curl up, we may see some further downside and we could break this value area low. We want to see some more green candles here, otherwise that's likely to happen. Over on the 4 hour, our RSI is overall falling. Stochastic is trying to make a bit of a curl up. Our money flow is trying to head up a little bit. Not really getting much momentum over this 11 zone though, so just watch out for a rejection. Our VWAP is pushing down, momentum is coming down with a red dot, so if this VWAP continues bearish, this momentum is likely to continue downwards. Over on the 2 hour here, our stochastic looks like it wants to get a little bit of a bullish curl up. Our RSI is trying to push up. Our money flow is getting several bounces off that neutral. It almost broke through twice, so just keep an eye on it because we are still losing steam and we keep touching this neutral, so we're not very confidently staying in the bullish territory for the 2 hour money flow. VWAP is overall getting lower lows, but wants to come up for a retest. Our momentum looks like we may come up for a retest too if that VWAP can flip bullish. Over on the 1 hour here, we're kind of zigzagging around. We had a little bit of a gap down, so we did fill it with a run up. Might have a little bit of a gap here, so we could fill that zone, and then at that point we may start to see that fall down. Our stochastic's trying to ramp up, RSI is starting to cool off, VWAP is trying to push up, our money flow did make a bounce out of that bearish territory. It fell bearish a few times, so just keep an eye on if this starts to fall and break into the bearish territory again, because we could get some more momentum, because we're not really getting much bullish momentum to the upside right now. Our momentum wave does want to make a curl up. We have a green dot, so that does want to push us up, but that's going to be dependent on if that VWAP can sustain this level or not. Over on XRP for the daily, we are getting a little bit of a push up with a doji candle here too. Our stochastic wants to get a little bit of a curl. RSI wants to push up a bit. Our money flow is ramping up. Our VWAP is trying to get a little bit of a curl up, which is trying to bring our momentum up as well. So if we can push into the bullish territory and cross, we could get that green dot. Over on the 4 hour, not the 3 hour, our stochastic's trying to ramp up. RSI is starting to curl down a bit. Our money flow is maintaining bullish momentum, but starting to get a bit of a cool off as it made a new high. So just watch out if it breaks that neutral and doesn't make a good bounce. Our VWAP is starting to head down, momentum's starting to curl down, so that's because that VWAP's starting to come down. Keep an eye on if that VWAP breaks bearish and we get a red dot on our momentum. Over on the 2 hour, stochastic is falling down. Our RSI is trying to run up, but if the stochastic breaks bearish, that RSI is likely to start to lose ground. Our momentum wave has a red dot and is starting to curl as our VWAP's trying to break through that our neutral. So just keep an eye on if that that VWAP doesn't manage to keep in that bullish territory. If we don't get a curl up and we just break down, we could see some further downside, especially with all these flashing bearish signals. Our money flow is also stretching very thin and doesn't know where it wants to go. Over on the 1 hour here, we are kind of just zigzagging flat, so we have a kind of a bear flag after this drop. Not too big of a bear flag, but it could bring us down. Just keep in mind we do have that Fibonacci and the point control and all that. For the volume profile. Not mean to do that. So we are trying to test that. We kind of rejected away from that. So it's real important if we get red candles, that could suggest we could get a little bit of a topping pattern and see some downside kind of like this was. But back to the 1 hour so we can finish XRP for the night. We are trying to get a little bit of a ramp up here, so that is good. We have maybe a real skinny ascending triangle you might be able to draw. Our stochastic is trying to make a curl up. RSI is losing strength though. Our momentum wants to get a bit of a roll up as our VWAP is trying to push into that bullish territory. So our VWAP is trying to push through. If our VWAP can manage to go bullish and stay bullish with some conviction, we could get a green dot that could play out to some upside momentum, and that could mean this pattern would play out. Our money flow is zigzagging around. We are maintaining in the bullish territory, but we're struggling to maintain above this 5 zone, so just watch out if we start to push away from it. Finally, on algo for the day, gonna redraw this Fibonacci, so bear with me. Hold it over. There we go. Keep moving my mouse. There. That's pretty good. So we still have this Fibonacci zone. We kind of pushed away. Our levels kind of moved on us. So we did break this Fibonacci zone now that we redrew it and stretched it. If you look, this Fibonacci zone covers this just breakdown area. I have this bigger one that has this higher, like 19 zone. And then the other zone is like way down at around negative. So obviously you can't have a negative price. So that's why we kind of have this trend one. So we have this volume profile. We have our point control we're breaking away from, so we're pushing down. Stochastic is pushing away. RSI is pushing away. VWAP wants to get a little bit of a run up. Momentum looks like it could try to curl if that VWAP does push up. But just watch out because that VWAP could start to curl as we keep signing in these red candles. Over on the 4 hour, we are just sliding away, not really making a down channel, just dumping away pretty violently. Stochastic's trying to run up. RSI is trying to push up, but they're not really going anywhere. We are around that neutral zone, so if we do push through here, we could get some momentum to the upside, but we had to look for a test of this value area low. If we do break through it, then we could test the point control and the Fibonacci area. However, if we reject it, it's likely we'll set some new lows. Our momentum wave is starting to curl away. Money flow is starting to come out, and our VWAP is very weak currently, so our VWAP could break bearish and bring our momentum wave down. We are making a new low here, almost, so it is possible we could fill this wick, and then we could get a bounce if we do continue with all the FUD and downside. Algo is pretty heavily FUDed in my opinion, but it is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Stochastic is trying to push up, RSI is trying to push up, our VWAP is trying to break bullish, so we'll have to see if it can break through with conviction, unlike the last couple of times. Our momentum wave does want to get a double green dot because our VWAP's breaking through, so if we are able to push forward here, we could see it break up and retest those zones I just mentioned. Our money flow is pushing out, so just keep an eye on that, as we'll need that to go bullish if we're going to have any sustained momentum forwards. Over on the 1 hour, stochastic is ramping up, RSI is trying to push up, but it's starting to cool off. Our VWAP's starting to roll over, so our momentum wave could see a little bit of a rollover, so keep an eye out for that. Our money flow is starting to push down, so just keep an eye out as the 1 hour looks like we're starting to push away, so we may see some further downside. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a wonderful night.